This is the Mindspace TV show. Welcome to the Mindspace TV show. On this show, we talk about everything mental health and therapy. We talk about pain, mental wellness, sexual health, trauma, addiction, and everything mental health. On this episode, we have someone who has bravely come to share her story on her mental health journey and her therapy journey and how it has helped her move forward. But before we get into that, we'll go on a short break. Stay tuned and don't go nowhere. As Africans, whenever we hear the words mental health or therapy, we often think in extremes, being mad or roaming the streets. On this show, we are here to change that narrative. Together, we'll explore practical real-life solutions, speak to leading mental health experts in Africa, and correct false assumptions. This is not just about awareness, we are about action.
If your sexual health is not in a good state, have someone you can talk to.
You can go to therapy to better yourself.
I'm Fauzia Zakaria, and this is the Mindspace TV show. Healing begins with understanding, and understanding begins here. Welcome back to the Mindspace TV show. I'm your host, Fauzia Zakaria, and I have a special guest with me today. Her name is Stephanie Okuma. Welcome, Stephanie.
Thank you so much, Fauzia.
It's so lovely having you here.
Excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming, and you're going to go personal here, and that's what I love about this episode. Can you tell us a little bit about your journey and your mental health journey?
I feel like there's no little bit to my journey, but I'll try to keep it as brief as I can. So the first time that I realized I had some struggles with my mental health was in 2020. I had just lost my dad at the start of the year. And for the rest of the year, I spent it being suicidal. I wanted to go be with my dad, right? I did not want to live in a world where my dad did not exist. So I spent many months going through that. And towards August, September, I realized I needed help because that was all I could think of. And I started Googling things I should not be Googling. So I decided at that time I needed help. And then I sought help. And between 2020 and now, I've had about 4 to 5 depressive episodes. And during each episode, when it gets the most difficult, I always reach out for help, right? I think that's one thing that I've been able to always do, and I can commend myself for that. Whenever I realize I can't do this alone, I seek help, right? So I've been able to speak with several people. That was how I was able to meet my therapist, ng, and I spoke to someone from there, and I think it's been interesting thus far. And right now, I've been on a 6-month streak where I've been seeing a therapist nearly every week, and it has helped improve my mental health greatly and even my perception of self, right? I felt a lot more grounded. I felt a lot more confident, right? So I came from a really tough place. I came from a lot of struggle, but now I'm here. Now I'm confident. Now I'm comfortable, and I can even say I'm happy. So that's what this journey has been like.
Okay. First, I want to say thank you very much. That was very brave of you to share on TV and everything. And I love how you continually saw help and everything, and that made you feel better. Can you tell us a bit about your family and how they reacted or how they saw your struggle? Did they go through the same struggles, and how did they react to your own struggle?
So I was the closest one to my dad. I'm the last born, and I'm the only girl. And I got to live with him at some point for around 6 years while I was in secondary school. So I got to know him. So my parents were separated. So my mom lived in a different state from my dad. So I got to live with my dad, and I got to experience him, and we got really close. So I was the one most affected by his death. And at the time, I was my final year in school, And I remember my brother asking me, am I sure I can finish school? I'm like, what choice do I have, right? So I think they saw my struggle, they understood it, but I can't say they knew very much how to help or even how to support, right? So one of the things I did, so this was around when lockdown came about and everything happened. So one of the things I had to do was leave home because I saw them carrying on with life and I was not ready to carry on. So one of the things I had to do was leave home and, try to take care of myself and try to grieve and heal, through the process or over the situation. So I guess that's how it was. I think they were supportive, but they didn't know how
To support you.
exactly. So that's what that was like for me.
Yeah. And this grief must have impacted you. Like you said, you even had to leave. But how did it impact? And you mentioned that you were in final year. And
Yes.
I think in a university, we all know final year is the most stressful time.
Absolutely.
So how did it impact your day-to-day life, the activities you had to do, the things, life moves on. So the things that you had to submit, the projects and everything, how did it impact your day-to-day activities?
So I don't want to say thank God for the things that happened in 2020 because it was a terrible time for people all around the world.
Yes.
But so we buried him on February 29th. And I think by March, the COVID lockdown began. So I had to leave school. So after the lockdown was lifted, ASU was on strike throughout 2020. So I did not have to return to school after his death. So that was how I was able to survive that year. And then so the next year, by then I'd gotten help, right? So I was doing a lot better and that's how I was able to carry on with school. But I'm convinced that if I had to do school in 2020, I don't think I'd have done so well, right? So the situations that happened that year protected me from, having to be in school and interact with people every day and projects and all of those things. So that's how it went.
So it means staying at home and, having that quiet time of reflection was what made you start your healing journey.
Yes.
But can you tell us the exact point where you decided or where you went like, I don't want to continue like this. I have to seek external professional help so that I can move on.
Absolutely. So I was staying with friends at the time and I wanted to start building my career, right? Because funny story, before my dad died, I just thought that after I finished school, he'll help me get a job and stuff like that. So I was not very worried. I was daddy's girl.
life.
Exactly. I was daddy's girl.
Yeah.
But after he passed, I realized I needed to take my career seriously and I needed to take career steps. And I wasn't able to focus, right? So that lack of focus was pulling me back because all I could think about was, how can I go meet my dad? How can I go meet my dad? I could not focus on anything. So that was when I decided, okay, I need to get help so I can move past this and live a normal life. Because I was seeing my friends living a seemingly normal life, right? And I was constantly in my head. So I think that's when I decided, okay, let me try getting help so I can move past this and not do something dangerous. So that was the point where I realized, okay, I needed to get help.
So would you say that therapy cured you? You just tried it once and you were like over it, or it was a process? And if it was a process, can you describe that process for us?
So first, it's been a 4-year journey, right? Because I started in almost 5 years. So I started in 2020. The first session I had, it was over WhatsApp, by the way, because I was staying with friends at the time and I did not want them to listen in to the things I was saying with my therapist. So I had to, chat with the therapist and I got a little more clarity on what I was going through and why I was going through it, right? But I can't say I felt cured or healed or anything like that. And between then and now, like I mentioned, I've had 4 or 5 depressive episodes, right? So it hasn't been, I'll do therapy and then I get well, right? It's that I get better, but like I'm not fully healed, right? And so that's why until this year, I've decided to now have an ongoing therapy treatment, right? So instead of just, one off. So those one-offs were helpful, but they were temporal. So now we are trying to understand the underlying issues and try to fix all of those things. I think in the past, we were fixing the surface issues. And so now, spending months in therapy, we are able to visit the underlying issues and treat them. So it wasn't a one-off thing for me. It's, first of all, it took 4 years. And then over the last 6 months, it's been beautiful, right? It's been an amazing journey of healing for me.
Okay, that's so wonderful to hear. But you mentioned having depressive episodes.
Yeah.
If you don't mind, can you describe a bit what these depressive episodes were like?
Okay, so the most recent one, which was this year,
Okay.
it happened, or it started around March, I would say. So I had gotten into a relationship with someone, and he was not treating me right.
Okay.
Right, he wasn't treating me the way I was expecting to be treated.
Treated.
Right, because I was coming from someone who loved me deeply, and I was used to being loved deeply, and then this was someone who was not loving me. So it was an issue for me, and it began to affect my self-worth because, again, of some underlying issues. So it was beginning to affect my self-worth. I started to feel sad. It started as just sadness to distraction at work. Like, I could not focus on my work properly, and it kept growing and growing until a point where I began to isolate myself from the world. At the point, I traveled to my village. So if anybody in my family listens or watches this, they realize why I went to the village, because I haven't seen my family 2 years or something. The village is even worse. But I traveled there for the whole of April, and I stayed there with my grandma, and I just wanted to isolate myself from the world as much as I could. And I did that. When I came back to Abuja, I still did the same thing. I would lock myself in my house. I wouldn't even open my windows because I didn't want the outside world in at all. For some of the things I also did was just lay down and wish to just sleep for 6 months till everything in my life crumbles, and then I'll get up. I don't know what my plan would be when I get up if everything has crumbled, but that's what I wanted. I just wanted to escape from the world for a while. So that's what it was like. And of course, this was affecting my work because I want to work, but I'm thinking, this doesn't matter at the end of the day. Everything I'm doing doesn't matter. Going to work doesn't matter. Having to pay your rent doesn't matter. Eating food. Why is food important? And then thoughts of self-harm started to come in. And I'm like, you know what? We're not doing this. We're not going to do this. And that's when I reached out for help. So the depressive episodes are usually like that, where I feel empty. I start to zone out. I start to isolate myself. I start to question the reason for anything. Like, why am I here? Why do I need to be alive? Like, last everybody's die. last everybody's going to die. So why can't my time just be now, right? So I can get it over and done with. So all of these things is what goes through my mind, during those depressive episodes. It's not funny at all.
Yeah, they sound very intense.
They are.
You know.
They are. Or rather, they were, because
Yeah.
I'm hoping they are in the past.
Hopefully too. And I'm sure it took a lot of strength in those times to actually reach out and seek for help.
It did.
And I think it's also it's great, or I want to point out the fact that you also went to lean back on your support system a bit when you went to the village. So it's very great to, keep family ties, because sometimes they hold us together. Yeah.
I think to speak to that, actually, my mom and auntie were in the village at the time, and my auntie has a little child who's like my favorite cousin. So knowing that all of them were there, something just filled me. You know what? Let me just stand up. Because it was on a whim. Let me just go there and join them. So I just packed my bags and then I went. And I loved being with them so much. I saw how much, my mom loves me, my aunt loves me. Because, I work remotely. So she was always making sure people were not disturbing me when I'm working. She's like, oh, go and sit here. And then she'll cook Indomie and come and give me. And that's my favorite meal. She'll cook and come and give me. So they were very so they didn't even know I was going through anything. But they were very supportive. They were very loving. And I realized I am surrounded by women who love me, who care about me, and who go to great lengths for me, right? So that was really amazing for me in April.
Wow. Basically, there is love at home.
There's love at home.
Yeah, and that healed you. That's great.
Yeah.
But through all of this, you still realize that it's important to seek professional help.
Yes.
Right now. So how was that professional help like? Apart from the love at home and how it uplifted you, what is that professional help actually doing for you?
Okay, so the first part of it would be that I was prescribed medications, right? So I had a conversation with a doctor, right, who is part of the, clinic, and she evaluated me, everything, and then realized that I needed to be on antidepressants to help me cope with a lot of things. So that's one side of it, right? Now the therapy side of it, oh my God, it's been incredible. And So one of the things that it has done is help me understand my behaviors better and why I do the things that I do, right? So understanding why I do certain things gives me more control because I know that, okay, if I don't want to do this, I don't have to. I have control over it. So that's one of the things that was very helpful to me. And then they suggested a couple of things like journaling, like affirmations. See, those things helped ground me in a way I never thought. So as a child, I had diaries, and stuff like that. I've always been hearing of affirmations, and I'll be like, I should do affirmations. But I never got around to it. But now my therapist suggested it. Okay, here is this app you can use, and you should always journal about different things. And I started doing those things, and I felt a lot more present, and even breath work, so like breathing exercises. I do those things, and I feel calmer. I feel grounded. I wonder if the word grounded communicates what I mean, but I feel more present. Because remember I said during the depressive episodes, I tend to zone out,
Yes.
right? But now I'm able to stay in the present because I'm doing all these things. The breathing exercises, the affirmations, the journaling. I go on daily walks, make sure I'm getting daily sunlight as well. So all of these things, recommendations from my therapist has, helped me become stronger, has helped me cope with situations, right? And I think that's the key thing. So first, the medications, and then second, the tools they've given me. So things like journal affirmation, I guess I refer to them as tools. Then the knowledge as well, like I mentioned. So things like your thoughts lead to feelings or emotions, and then those feelings lead to behaviors, right? So I hold on to these things and they help guide me. So recently, what I'm working on most is building my sense of self, right? So building self-love, my self-identity, all of these things. And so my therapist gives me assignments like, write 10 things you love about yourself, conduct a SWOT analysis about your life, and, things like this. Those engaging in those things help me realize these are the things I love about myself. And I'll tell you, that list is not very long. It's not long. And we're able to speak about it. Why is this list not long enough? What else can be on the list? What are the things that I wanted to write, but I was doubting? Those kind of things? Self-doubt comes in or plays a role. And these exercises help me understand why and how to overcome them, right? So he has also taught me to prioritize facts, right? So if, for example, I'm thinking, am I beautiful? Am I not beautiful? I can go to facts, right? What do I define as a standard of beauty? And not even what the world perceives beauty to be, one of those things. So once I can settle on facts, I can hold on to those facts instead of whatever evil my mind may be feeding me. But yes, it's been an interesting journey. I've been learning a lot, and it has helped me grow in so many ways.
Wow. Again, thank you for sharing.
Of course.
And, I think what I've learned is that you used a combination of things, medication,
Yes.
tools like journaling and affirmation, and then knowledge and resources. And all of this combined is what has helped you, is what's helping you on your healing journey.
Absolutely.
And I would like to know a little bit more about medications.
Okay.
But before we go into that, we'll go on a short break. We'll be right back. As Africans, whenever we hear the words mental health or therapy, we often think in extremes, being mad or roaming the streets. On this show, we're here to change that narrative. Together, we'll explore practical real-life solutions, speak to leading mental health experts in Africa, and correct false assumptions. This is not just about awareness, we are about action.
If your sexual health is not in a good state, have someone you can talk to.
You can go to therapy to better yourself.
I'm Fauzia Zakaria, and this is the Mindspace TV show. Healing begins with understanding, and understanding begins here. Welcome back to the Mindspace TV show. We've been talking to Stephanie, who has been bravely sharing her story about her mental health journey. And before we went on the break, we were talking about medications, right? And I want to ask you, I don't think a lot of Nigerians or Africans are very conversant with mental health medications and what they do and how they work. So can you shed a little bit of light on that?
Okay, so I'm not a doctor, so I will try to keep this to my experience, and I'm not professional, right? But what it does is that it helps keep my mood stable. So most times when I wake up or when I'm doing something and I start to feel sad or moody, I realize, have I taken my meds? I'm like, oh no, I haven't, right? And then I take it and then it stabilizes my mood.
Wow.
So that's how it works. And I don't know how it actually works, like in the body, but that's my experience. That's how I experience it on the outside. And it helps keep me, how do I explain that, present, I think I would say, and keeps the sadness away. What else? Yeah, I think so. That's it. So every once in a while, I have to, when it's finishing, I have to go to my doctor, and then sometimes we'll have a new evaluation, and then the prescription comes in. And recently I was diagnosed with BPD, which is borderline personality disorder. And my therapist considered medication to help with it, but when I spoke with the doctor, she said that these medicines are not always easy to get off of. So should rather I don't start it, right? I can be able to use therapy to manage it without additional meds. And I think that was really helpful because I don't want to just keep taking medications, right?
Yeah.
So she was able to limit that for me and ensure that I just stick to one while, I use therapy to help in any other way that I'll need the help. So yeah, the medications have been quite helpful.
Quite helpful. And are there any side effects? I love how they help, how you can immediately notice that, my mood is so and so because I haven't taken the drugs. But are there any side effects?
So one side effect is that you don't feel horny, which means you may not want to have sex. So if you're not married or if you're not sexually active, it's not really a problem, right? So you don't have to worry about that. And if there are any other side effects, I've not experienced any, right? So I think, okay, so when I skip my meds, sometimes I experience something called brain zaps. That's the only way I can explain it. So it's like a bit of dizziness, but like it's a zap to my brain. So I don't know what exactly happens there, but I know that's what happens when I skip it for maybe 2 days or more. But aside, I haven't experienced any side effects, really.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I like that your care also, puts that into consideration as per, we don't need to be happy more meds on you and everything.
Yeah.
And you mentioned a bit about borderline personality disorder.
Right.
Can you tell us what it is and just a bit about how it's in you, or how it presents in you?
So it's basically a disorder where a person, so it presents itself in different ways, but mostly a fear of abandonment. I feel like that's one of the key things about BPD is that the borderliner is scared of being abandoned, even when there's no real reason. They're scared of rejection, so all of those things. And it usually comes from childhood trauma, right? And sometimes the absence of a parent. So, remember I mentioned my parents were separated.
Yes.
So when I grew up, I was growing up with my mom before I moved to my dad. So I think the absence of a father figure in my life as a child could have played a part. And then afterwards, just when I was getting closer to him, he passed away, right? So I believe that his absence is what led. So these are the type of things that cause BPD,
Borderline,
right? So that led to it. And how it's presenting right now is things like anxiety, things like the depressive episodes I keep having, and what else? Yes, and then lack of self-identity. So there are times when I look at a person and I assume I am that person. It's a little confusing, but when I see them, I imagine myself as them because I struggle with my own identity, or I struggle with knowing who I am as a person. So I look at somebody's face and I'm assuming that's my face, and when I see a mirror, I'm like, Jesus, who is that?
Jump scare.
Exactly, because I was thinking that face was my face, and then now I'm seeing a strange face. So there's that struggle, and that's one of the things that my therapist has been walking me through, helping me to, first of all, love myself, accept myself, and then build an identity. So what are the things I like? What are my values, my hobbies? All of these things help me build my own personality and eventually my own identity. And I'm able to love my person. So I'm not going about latching onto people. Yeah, but that's what BPD is like.
Wow, thank you for briefly sharing. You've been very vulnerable, and I really admire your
Thank you
courage
so
and
much.
everything. Thank you for telling us about medications. So I would assume that for the side effects of medications, you have to speak directly to your doctor.
Yes,
Yeah, for
absolutely.
those kind of things. And thank you for speaking to us about BPD, and how, which is why you've also harped on self-worth and self-identity,
Yes.
and how curating, finding yourself, basically is going to be something that helps you.
Very important.
Thank you for sharing all of that.
You're welcome.
But from what I gather, and I'm sure the audience can gather this too, it was, it's been like an intense, long experience. And I'm sure you've learned some lessons from that. So can you share a few of the lessons you've learned? And if anyone out there, if anyone watching this, kind of relate to some of your struggles, do you have any advice for them, when they're trying to seek help, or, telling them how they should seek help and when they should know it's time to seek help? Just lesson learned and advice.
Okay, so the lessons I've learned, the key lesson I've learned is that I'm a strong woman, right? So this is something that I probably would not have said maybe a few months ago or a year ago, because I never really considered myself that. But going through this process and watching myself evolve has made me understand and believe that, oh, I'm strong, right? I'm able to take the steps I need to achieve what I want to achieve, or what I'm supposed to achieve. Therapy has not been easy. Showing up week after week after week has not been easy, right? Especially with someone who used to struggle with consistency. Yeah, it has been difficult, showing up every week. And then when I'm given tasks, oh, you need to do this, or you need to do that, it hasn't always been easy, right? So I've learned that I'm a strong person and I'm committed, and I'm able to grow. I don't have to stick to one thing forever. I can change, I can grow, I can become a better person. And if I was to give advice to anybody out there who wants to get started with therapy, please do it. Right. So, like I said, my first instances were, one-off. So you could try that. For example, you can find, a therapist or a psychologist. At one time, I had to speak to mytherapist.ng. I had to speak to a therapist on mytherapist.ng, and she was very helpful. So I remember that time it was like 5,000 naira I paid, and it was interesting that I could get therapy at that price, right? But yeah, I spoke to someone then. I think that's something that you can do. Find someone to speak to. And try not to hold back. If you're not the very expressive type, one thing you can do is start by journaling or by recording voice notes on your phone, just so that you get used to speaking about your struggles, right? Even though there's no audience, that helps it get easier for when, you're speaking to someone. And what else? Just come prepared with an open mind to a therapy session. Come with a pen and a paper so you can take notes of what your therapist is saying. And, just be brave. Right? Even if you don't feel brave, you can pretend to be brave.
But yes, that's make it
exactly. But yes, that's what I'd say.
Wow. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Even some of your advice, I'll take it.
Okay.
And I also want to reiterate that, yes, I know you're a strong woman.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
For now, we have some questions from our campus ambassadors, and they'd like to ask you a few things based on your journey.
I hope I can answer them.
Of course you can.
All right.
So one question is, how did you find the right therapist? Because I've heard this, that like finding the right therapist is like finding a spouse or a partner.
It's very much so.
So how did you find the right therapist, and what do you think other people should look for when they're seeking a therapist?
Okay, so I found the right therapist through trial and error. That's the only way you can find, right? Because you cannot truly know if a therapist is the right fit until you've spoken to them. So I remember I spoke to someone and I did not feel like we connected because I was feeling a bit judged by her, right? So I was able to speak with the management and be like, oh, I'm not very comfortable with this person. Can I get someone else? And they recommended somebody else to me, and it's been amazing. He's the one I've been working with for the last 3 to 4 months. At first, I was skeptical about working with a male therapist because I've never seen a male therapist before. I've never worked with a male therapist before. But he came, we've been speaking and it's been great. And I got to, why we're able to connect better was, first, I didn't feel judged by him. I could feel him being empathetic towards me. And I could also tell that he was knowledgeable, right? So these things helped me know that, I can stick here for long. So I think anyone who's trying to find the right therapist, you just have to start with one person, right? So most times you can find their bios, right? So if you can read about this person, Google them if possible, and see if they kind of fit what you're going for. And then you can book a session, speak with them. If you feel like you don't connect, maybe give them a second try. And then afterwards, you can try someone else. What you want to look out for is this person empathetic? Does this person understand my situation? Is the person, let me say, caring, right? But more importantly, are they knowledgeable? Because you want someone who knows their onion, someone who can actually help you. So you look out for these things, and maybe things unique to your personality as well. I don't know instances, but for me, these were the things that I looked out for, right? So maybe you can look at someone you feel comfortable speaking with and make sure you find that person in a therapist. I think that's what I would say. So yeah, that's it.
Make sure you look for someone you feel comfortable speaking with, and make sure you find that person in a therapist.
You make that sound so cool.
Yes, because just dropped a nugget, girl. You just dropped a nugget. So the second question is, how do you, and I think you mentioned this before, but how do you stay consistent with your therapy and medication?
So I think with medication it's easy because I start feeling sad and I'm like, wait, what? When last I took my meds? So that is very easy. For therapy, I know that this is what is helping me. This is what is helping me heal. This is what's helping me get better. This is what's helping me connect with people, because I used to be very anxious and I used to avoid public speaking or even making friends or anything, right? And I've seen how therapy has helped me connect better with people. I've seen how therapy has helped me focus on my work. I've seen the effects of therapy from the very beginning. And any day that I feel like, I don't want to go for this session, I realized every session brings me closer to my healing journey, right? Especially with borderline. To overcome borderline, to manage borderline, it takes a while, like up to a year or two, because it's a personality disorder. So you need to change your personality, right? And it takes a while. So every session brings me closer to my goal. And I think that's what that serves as a motivation to me that helps me show up every week. So you need to find your why. Why are you in therapy? And hold on to that why. That why is what makes you wake up every week or every 2 weeks or every month and go see your therapist.
It's been a great and wonderful time speaking with you, Stephanie. I have learned a lot. I have learned a lot from medication, how to be consistent with therapy, how to find the right fit for you. Some of the struggles that you've shared have been, I'm sure some people might be able to relate to that. So thank you so much for sharing this with us. Do you have any last words, any short last words you might want to tell our audience?
Go to therapy. Don't be scared of therapy. Go to therapy.
Go to therapy. You can also go to the mytherapist.ng app and you'll be able to find different therapists with different specialties and read through their bios and see which one works for you. Thank you very much for listening and staying up till this time. It's been a wonderful session with Stephanie and I hope to see you next time. Bye.